Right, the National Party has been under fire this week over where it stands on the controversial issue of abortion. It follows the Supreme Court decision in the US which removed abortion as a constitutional right. Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robertson has accused Christopher Luxon of not being clear on his stance, other than Luxon saying he's pro-life. This is what Robertson had to say on Monday.
Does that mean that he'll make sure that all national members don't bring forward a private member's bill? Would he make sure that it wasn't part of a coalition? The issue for Christopher Luxon here is he's said what he believes about abortion and now he's spinning to tell New Zealanders a different story.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon joins us now. Good morning, Morena. An opportunity to
Good morning, Mel. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And we've got an opportunity for you to be really clear here now with a yes or a no answer. Does the Supreme Court decision to overturn that Roe v Wade case align with your views on abortion, yes or no?
No, I think the Roe versus Wade decision was incredibly distressing. I think it was a big shock. What we're talking about there is not a watering down of abortion law. What we're talking about is a wholesale repeal of law over 50 years. What I'm very grateful about is that in New Zealand here we have a completely different process. When we discuss abortion law, as we did in 2019 and 2020, we opened that up, we debated it, we voted on it, we took public and expert opinions and submissions on that. People voted and we locked that law down. That law is not changing, and I'm being very clear about that. I've been clear about that even before this issue, that under a national government, there's no relitigation, no revisiting, no changes to those laws, no change in funding to those services. I want women in New Zealand to have maximum certainty that there will be absolutely no change. And both parties have got the same position about that here in New Zealand, and that's very clear.
So when your MP Simon O'Connor posted on Saturday, "Today is a good day," did you agree with the sentiment?
No, I didn't, and that's why Simon and I had a chat about that, because one, it was being interpreted as the National Party position, which it isn't, and the second thing is that it was insensitive to women, and so that's why we had a chat and he took it down. So,
just playing devil's advocate here though, doesn't Simon O'Connor have a right to express his views, express his belief?
Well, at a personal level, we can have our personal views, and the time for expressing that was certainly through a conscience vote that we had when we were debating the legislation. That legislation has been settled, it's been decided, and it's not going to change. And so, yes, we want people to have their personal views and personal opinions. In this case, it was being interpreted as the National Party view. Whether you hold a pro-life or a pro-choice position in the National Party, and I'd say for the Labour Party for that matter, the bottom line is very simple, that both caucuses, both parties have agreed that there is no change to those laws going forward. And so I don't know how to be more clearer about it. I've been talking about that and had that position for some time, but I really wanted people to understand that.
Have you ever spoken with Simon O'Connor about any other posts he has put online?
No, I'm just conscious of that one that we talked about over the weekend.
Okay, so on June the 15th, he also posted, that's just a couple of weeks ago, that he supported Bethlehem College in terms of their statement of belief, saying that marriage should be able to be stated as just between one man and one woman. Would you also be concerned if that was taken as National Party policy?
Well, look, I mean, the bottom line is, marriage equality is something I personally support, so it's not a position that I hold. With respect to Bethlehem College, that's a charter school or a school of special character, and that looks like an issue between the school and the government. And essentially, parents have choice to send their children to that school or not. And there's a whole range of special character schools that have a range of different beliefs, but ultimately that's an issue between the government and the school. And what you'd hope is within the school there's real care and pastoral care for kids that want to come out.
But why didn't you talk to Simon O'Connor about that post? Because the comments under that, it was clear that that had also caused distress amongst the rainbow community here in New Zealand.
Look, he's entitled to express his view on an issue like that. And in this last case, it was being interpreted as the National Party position and being talked about widely in media and amongst the public as being such, and that's what I wanted to clear up.
OK, so it's just when it's harming the party as a whole that you want those posts to go down politically?
Look, we have people in our We have people in our party that have a range of views on a range of topics, and that's exactly how it is in the National Party. We want a really broad set of views and perspectives. But when we have a party position, irrespective of our personal views, which in this case was I wanted people to have, given the distress of Roe versus Wade, it was important that women in New Zealand have certainty that there will be no change to the funding and to the laws on abortion going forward.
We've been talking about restricted trading also this morning. Do you believe that retailers should have the option to decide whether they trade or not on religious holidays?
Yeah, I do. I support that change to the legislation. I think it's common sense, it's very practical and very pragmatic, and I don't think it impinges on anybody's personal faith or their desire to worship in whatever way they do to celebrate a religious occasion, and they should feel free to do that, but someone's ability to go to the shops and to work and open up a business on that time doesn't impact on that. So, yeah, it's a very common sense, I'll be supporting it.
Okay, and on health, it's emerged that a year ago, MB was notified, warned by the DHBs that there was workforce issues at a critical level. This was a year ago. There have been changes to immigration settings since, but what is your view on the timeline?
Well, look, I mean, I just find it odd that the Prime Minister and the Health Minister think the system is actually, quote, coping. It's quite obvious that it isn't, and it hasn't been for some time. There's a number of challenges here. First and foremost, as you identified, we are 4,000 nurses short as a minimum, and we've got a problem where nurses and midwives are not being brought into a fast track for residency. Now, the problem is if you're sitting in the Philippines or Wales or wherever and you're weighing up as a nurse about wanting to immigrate to somewhere else, and you look at Canada or Australia and you compare that to New Zealand's pathway to residency, it's very, very different. So it's not an attractive proposition to come to New Zealand. So that law needs to be changed so that nurses aren't waiting 2 years to get to residency. We need to make it the same as Australia, as it is for doctors, and able to bring and improve our health workforce immediately. The second thing, Mel, that needs to happen is there's an immense amount of money being spent on restructuring healthcare and building bureaucracy in Wellington rather than investing in the frontline health services, which is what needs to be happening. And there's an ordinate internal focus around restructuring rather than actually delivering health outcomes for New Zealanders. And the last thing I'd say is that actually the removal of health targets about emergency wait times, about cancer treatments, about access to first specialist appointments, all of that's been taken away, and as a result, those outcomes are not being achieved here. But look, it's symptomatic of what's going on in New Zealand at the moment. We've got a cost of living crisis, we've got a failing healthcare system, our education attendance and academic records are going south very quickly, and we've got rising crime in New Zealand. So there's, we've got a lot of challenges, and I can understand why people like Grant Robertson want to create a distraction around another issue, but I just say focus on the day job and let's get some outcomes for New Zealanders.
Is it fair to say that it's a distraction? I mean, a lot of people actually do want to know where you stand and where the National Party stands. It's a fair enough questions, aren't they, as opposed to a distraction?
No, they are legitimate questions, but I've been answering them well before Roe versus Wade came out, and I've been answering them again this week. I can't be any clearer. There'll be no relitigation, no revisiting of those laws. OK. Perhaps what Simon O'Connor posted was a distraction for you? And that's why it was removed, yeah.
National Party leader Christopher Luxon, thanks very much for joining us this morning.